I spent most of my life trying to make my external environment safe by pleasing everybody and by yesing or saying the no's when somebody else wants to hear that. But getting so lost from my own internal compass that I don't even trust myself anymore. I don't even trust myself to honor what I want to do. And I think resentment is such a wonderful indicator as that's
you mentioned that a good. You want to dive into resentment?
Let's lean into that.
Yeah. So okay, you tell me. And we'll do a little therapy here.
All right.
All right. Tell me the situations where you're most likely to get resentful, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take those back to your covert contracts. So where does your resentment tend to show up?
I think the biggest places it still tends to show up is in my intimate relationship. And those could be little things. I'm actually just even getting better at noticing it's showing up, because often it used to just bubble up until it would explode. And then resentment would be up here, more violent resentment. But I'm getting better at noticing it in the small ways. So that could be, in doing the dishes when I don't want to, or just doing little tasks around the house. And rather than doing it to contribute, I'm feeling even resent within those micro moments, or making a decision.
Now, if you're getting laid for every time you did the dishes, you probably wouldn't have resentment, but probably you're not getting, your return on investment for doing them. The return you thought you might get, even appreciated.
Even the little bit of recognition, to your point there, like sometimes, and that's when I really have to catch myself, because, fuck, if I got laid for everything I did, that'd be, right. Yeah. Life would be wonderful, but that, obviously that's not the dynamic. And what, even those little moments, that's the more subtle pieces, like catching myself. Oh, do I just want her to acknowledge me in these little things? And, oh, well, she didn't even come back and acknowledge that I just spent the last half hour doing this thing, or the last 2 hours doing this thing for our relationship. And that's, those are the more subtle pieces of resentment that I start to notice.
Good catch. Because that's really, because, I'm a marriage therapist by training. My doctorate said marriage and family therapy. So I've worked with a lot of couples. I've been in a few long-term relationships myself. And whether it's resentment, unmet expectations, compromises that weren't really compromises, they were caving. You gave up when you didn't really want to. Little breaches of trust. Those things are all like bricks that build up in a relationship over time, and they turn into this wall. And most couples don't know how to get through those bricks, and that's probably why many relationships end over time. Well, probably a number end because maybe those people really weren't a very good match, and they just tried to make it work, like I've done in some of my relationships. But a lot of times it's not that they're a bad match. They just let too many of those bricks build up over time until basically the only kind of sex or relationship couples having is what I call hall sex. It's what therapists refer to as hall sex, which is every time you pass each other in the hall, you say, fuck you, fuck you. That's a marriage therapist joke. And you used to like that person, right? You liked them enough to, have sex with them, move in with them, maybe get married to them. Now it's just fuck you, because all of the bricks that have built up over time. Okay, where those resentments come from, a quote that I really love. I'm going to talk about covert contracts. A quote from Neil Strauss, who's the author of The Game. He says, unexpressed expectations are premeditated resentments. I love that. Unexpressed expectations are premeditated resentments. So you're doing the dishes with an unexpressed expectation. She'll notice and appreciate me. She'll just walk up and lean over my shoulder and say, oh, you're such a sweetheart. Thank you. Mm-hmm. That's your unexpressed expectation. When she doesn't walk in and lean over and what? I did all this and she doesn't even appreciate it. I'm not even asking her to have sex. I just want her to notice and appreciate it, right? But here's the thing. One of the things I've seen with nice guys, we'll still come back to covert contracts, is that often from that place of emotional neediness, of wanting to be approved of, validated, liked, loved, desired, right? Told you're a good guy. That's actually an empty little boy needy place that we're expecting our woman to come like be a mommy and praise us and tell us good job. Oh, good job. You did the dishes. Most women don't want to be their partner's mommy. They don't want that needy little boy to say, approve of me, like my pee-pee, tell me I did good. And they're not rejecting us or even unappreciative of the fact that we did the dishes. What they can feel from a mile away is our covert contract, our neediness, our unexpressed expectation of how they're supposed to respond. And if they do respond to it, they're not doing us any favors because they're perpetuating our little boy neediness and them being the nice mommy that tells us we're being a good boy. They don't want that for you. They don't want that for them. But we guys don't get that. We nice guys don't get it. We think, oh, she just rejected me, or she didn't appreciate me, or she didn't want to have sex with me. No, she just did not want us to hook up the emotional needy hose and start sucking the life out of her. So she had to be the approving mommy. Another quote I love. This is from one of my No More Mr. Nice Guy certified coaches, another Canadian, Wally Wallace. He wrote a book called Sipping Fear, Pissing Confidence. Great title of a book. Right, he and I were talking about it before he published it. He said, I think I'm going to change the name. And I said, no, don't change the name. Sipping Fear, Pissing Confidence. It's mainly written towards addiction and men, but really it covers everything. It's one of the best books I've ever read for men in general. And I've read a lot of men's books. But there's a line in that book, and I was listening to it while driving in my car a couple of years ago, driving from California up to Seattle, and I had it on CarPlay, listening to the audiobook. And a line came up, and I'm paraphrasing it. I'm not getting it exactly right. But the line is something like this. A man does not mature until he quits seeking the approval of a woman. And I'm driving in my car trying to hit, replay. So I pulled off the freeway, Interstate 5, pull over to just listen to that. And I got home and immediately ordered the print version of the book because I wanted to see that in print, because it just resonated so deeply that a man does not mature until he quits seeking the approval of a woman. Now, that's basically what he's talking about, is masculine initiation, where our forefathers would have come and gotten us at 12, taken us out of the nursery, away from mommy, cut the umbilical cord, cut the apron strings, took us out, put us in a life-threatening situation, carried us through that, got us through, anointed us, put us in the tribe of men, and now the women come seeking our approval because we have what they want. We are now the solid man, the warrior, the provider, the protector, and the feminine's going to be really attracted to that. As long as we're in there doing the dishes, hoping, mommy likes us and approves of us, we're not a warrior, right? We're not initiated men. We're little boys trying to get mommy's approval. So where that's coming from for nice guys is in the covert contracts. And I talk about that in No More Mr. Nice Guys. And a lot of guys have told me that's their biggest takeaway from the book. I think it's my biggest takeaway in my own nice guy recovery, to really get aware of them. But to even give it more clearly than it is in the book, there's 3 primary covert contracts for nice guys. And again, these are those unexpressed expectations that lead to premeditated resentments. Covert contract number 1, they're all if-then propositions. They're all fundamentally, subtly manipulative, and they're all covert, often unconscious. But number 1 is, if I'm a good guy, then I'll be liked and loved, and the woman I desire will desire me back. So if I do the dishes, I'll get laid, right? So it's manipulative, and if I'm a good guy, what does that even mean? And then I'll be liked and loved. Well, not everybody's going to like us. Not everybody's going to love us. Not everybody's going to want to go to bed with us. But we have that contract. I'm a good guy. How come the women don't like me? How come they're not attracted to me? How come they don't want to be with me? How come my woman doesn't want to have sex anymore? Well, the truth is probably because we're an insecure, needy little boy using covert contracts to get a woman's approval, and they don't want to give us approval as a good mommy. So there's covert contract number 1. Covert contract number 2 is that if I read your mind and meet your needs without you having to ask, then you'll read my mind and meet my needs without me having to ask. Remember those unexpressed expectations? oh, you'll read my mind and say, oh, good job. Thanks for doing the dishes. I so appreciate you. I love you so much. You're the best husband in the world. Now let's go. Let me suck your dick. Right. That's the unexpressed expectations. And again, we don't really read their mind. We're giving to them what we think they want. We're giving to them what we need to give, not what they need to receive. And they can't read our minds, and they don't know that we're expecting them to. And to really top it off, we nice guys are terrible receivers, right? We're not good at asking for what we want. We're not good at surrounding ourselves with people who want to give to us. We're not good at making our needs a priority. And when people do try to give to us, we don't let them. We make it difficult. I've had pretty much every woman in my life has said, Robert, you're difficult to give to. Well, okay, I better pay attention to that if I want to receive from not only women, but from the universe, right? I've got to become a good receiver. But nice guys tend to believe, because of that early emotional beliefs we inaccurately internalized as children, I'm bad for having needs, or everybody else's needs are more important than mine, or I have to give to you first before you can give to me, or if I get my needs met, you're going to be mad at me, or I owe you something. So we're terrible at receiving. And so that's a piece I've been working on the last 20 plus years, still working on it to this day. Yeah. Third covert contract. If I do everything right, then I'll have a smooth, problem-free life. Now, this is kind of a Peter Pan-ish view of the world. I don't want to grow up. I just want to be Peter Pan. The world is not smooth and problem-free. It's challenging. It's difficult. That's why men need masculine initiation, to learn how to get comfortable feeling uncomfortable, to welcome and embrace hard times and grow from them. But without a masculine initiation, instead we go into a covert contract. Well, I'll just do everything right. I'll say the right thing. I'll be perfectionist. I won't risk anything that will lead to failure, looking foolish. Then I'll have a smooth, problem-free life. Everything will go well. But it doesn't. And all that usually just leads us to us underperforming or being perfectionists that don't really do everything perfectly. There's no reward. There's no gold stars in heaven for you doing everything right. But again, it's that immature little boyish mentality that if I'm a good boy, if I do everything right, then I'll get all the approval and validation I want. Okay, so here we are. We've been living by this roadmap. You and I both have. Maybe a couple of your listeners have been, they're going, I do that, I do that, I do that. Okay, so what happens when we've kept our side of those covert contracts? Now, remember, we're not only the player, we're the referee, we're the scorekeeper. We've got the scoreboard up there. Well, I'm a good guy. I'm better than him. I'm not a jerk like him. Or I gave to her, or I did that. I did the dishes. Oh, and I've done everything right. I'm not a bad man. And we're keeping score, and we're going, wait a minute. How come I don't get that promotion? How come I don't get those words of approval? How come I don't get laid? How come girls don't even talk to me? How come my wife never wants to have sex with me anymore? Right? How come I'm not wealthier than I am? What's wrong with this picture? And all that does is lead to resentment, frustration. I've kept my side of the contract. Women haven't kept their side. My wife hasn't kept her side. My boss hasn't kept it. God hasn't kept his side of the contract, right? And so that's where the frustration and resentment builds up. So people ask, well, how do I know if I'm living with covert contracts? And the answer is really simple. It's because if you have frustration and resentment, even rage, you have covert contracts. You have unexpressed expectations that are leading to premeditated resentments. And so that's where we go to work. So you go to work on, why am I feeling frustrated? Why am I feeling upset that she didn't notice me? Why? Get curious and ask yourself, what were my unexpressed expectations? What were my covert contracts? What was I giving or doing? And what was I expecting in return? And realize people can't read our minds. They don't know what a contract is if we haven't told them. And again, the world isn't smooth and easygoing. And we got to practice being good receivers, because actually what I've found is that the world around me is actually wanting to bless me and give to me all the time. But if I don't notice it, if I don't let it in, or if it's not in the way that I was wanting it, it's just going to wash right over me. And my kind of like my receptor cells in my nervous system don't even let that stuff come and latch on, because in my mind, well, it's not what I wanted, or I'm not good enough, or I'm going to be in trouble, or I'm going to owe something. We've got to really practice letting go of the covert contracts, making our needs a priority, asking people for what we want, surrounding ourselves with people and situations who want to give to us, and we have to practice letting them, saying yes, walking through the open doors. So this is the process I'm still working on, 30 some years after beginning this process back in that 12-step group.